Welcome back to The Explainer, designed specifically for the focused learner who just wants to cut through all the noise. I'm Dr. Chem, and today we're diving into a complete cinematic masterclass on something that's absolutely foundational to modern science, yet, honestly, so often misunderstood. We're talking about the principles of scientific data visualization. We are going to figure out exactly how to choose the right graph, how to communicate incredibly complex data with crystal clarity, and, maybe most importantly, how to avoid accidentally creating misleading scientific figures. Right, let's kick things off with a number that really sets the stakes here, 2.5 quintillion. That is the number of bytes of data produced every single day right now. It's a literal deluge of information. And alongside that, we've got thousands of scientific papers being published daily. So, to actually stand out and be understood in that ocean of data, you need exceptional visual clarity. If your graphics aren't instantly translating your complex findings into a readable format, well, your research is essentially invisible. And that brings us to a quote that perfectly captures our whole philosophy for today. It's from data visualization pioneer Edward Tufte, who said, "Clutter and confusion are failures of design, not attributes of information." Now, that is a huge paradigm shift. Think about it. If a scientific figure is confusing, we really can't just blame the complexity of the data. Information overload, that's actually a design failure. It means that we, as the scientists and communicators, just haven't done our job of structuring the visual message properly. So, to fix that, here is our game plan for today's explainer. We'll start with the visualization problem, move on to choosing the right chart, then mastering the data-ink ratio, applying color theory and accessibility, and we'll wrap it all up with avoiding misleading graphics. Okay, part one, the visualization problem. Because bad design really does ruin good science. We have to recognize that bad design is way more than just a superficial aesthetic issue. It actively harms good science. Visuals are super important for communication, but let's be real, scientists are almost never trained in formal design. And the scale of this problem? It's staggering. A landmark study by Cleveland actually found that a massive 30% of graphs in the prestigious journal Science had at least one type of objective error. And those are just the flat-out errors. We're not even counting the incredibly widespread, inefficient designs that might technically be factual but completely fail to transfer information. When bad graphics confuse people, it literally sets back scientific progress. Moving on to part two, choosing the right chart. This is the absolute foundation of clarity. You've got to match the shape of your graphic to the actual nature of your data. If you try to force data into the wrong geometry, the message just dies. To tackle this, the research team at Getty Labs laid out a super clean, four-step process. Step 1, what's your data type? Is it quantitative, categorical, temporal? Step 2, what relationship are you trying to show? A comparison, a distribution? Step 3, who is your audience? Are they experts who eat heat maps for breakfast, or a general crowd needing clear comparisons? And only after you've answered those three do you hit step 4, picking the actual visualization. So how does that pairing actually play out? Well, if you're comparing discrete categories, a bar graph is going to be your best friend. Trying to show trends over time, you'll definitely want a line or an area graph. If you need to show the distribution of numerical data, you're looking at a histogram or a box plot. And for checking the correlation between two different variables, you can't beat a scatter plot. The takeaway here is that there is absolutely no one-size-fits-all. Your data dictates the shape, not your personal aesthetic preference. All right, part 3, mastering the data-ink ratio. Simplification as a hard rule. When it comes to scientific graphics, less is almost always more. Extra borders or redundant labels just overcomplicate things. Tufte coined this brilliant concept called the data-ink ratio. It's basically the amount of ink used to show the actual data compared to the total ink used in the entire figure. You want this ratio to be as high as humanly possible. That means being totally ruthless about stripping away decorative fluff, heavy grid lines, and what Tufte hilariously calls chart junk. You want to simplify things so the viewer's eye goes straight to your findings, not to the graphic design elements. Let's jump into part 4, color theory and accessibility. It's all about conveying meaning. In data visualization, color is never just there to look pretty. It's a highly specific communication tool. Paul Toll developed a really useful framework that breaks down 3 distinct color schemes depending on your data. First up, qualitative schemes. Use these for distinct categories where magnitude doesn't matter, like different lines on a plot. Next, diverging schemes. These are for data ordered between two extremes, highlighting how things shift from a critical midpoint, usually with a neutral color in the center. And lastly, sequential schemes, which use gradients from light to dark to represent numbers going from low to high. But hey, picking the right scheme isn't the whole job. You have to follow some pretty strict rules for accessibility. Your colors need to be distinct for everyone, and that absolutely includes readers with color blindness. They also need to be clear if someone prints your paper in black and white. A great rule of thumb is checking if your scheme works in grayscale without losing any information. And please, keep your color palette consistent throughout your entire paper, so your reader doesn't have to keep relearning what your colors mean on every single page. Finally, Part 5, avoiding misleading data graphics, keeping the truth in your data. Even if you pick the right chart and great colors, tiny design choices can still totally misrepresent your work. Just look at this absolute wheel of terror. This perfectly shows why the scientific community has basically abandoned pie charts. When you have a ton of categories, like the populations of all these European countries here, a pie chart becomes a chaotic, unreadable mess. Human eyes are actually really bad at comparing the surface area of tiny little slices. The subtle differences just vanish. If you need to show individual values clearly, a pie chart is almost always the wrong move. Now, here is a hard, absolute rule for quantitative comparisons. Always start your vertical axis at 0 when you're showing absolute magnitudes, like in a bar chart. If you truncate your axis and start it at, say, 50 instead of 0, you artificially inflate the differences between your values. You are literally bending the visual reality of the data. And in science, that is a massive red flag. This right here is the famous NOPE graphic, and it perfectly exposes the danger of oversimplification. On the left, you've got a standard bar chart showing the mean response to a treatment. But remember, bar charts are for single values. When you use one to show a grouped mean, you completely hide how the data is actually behaving. Now look at the right. By switching to a scatter plot and showing the raw data points, we suddenly see this massive, complex distribution that the bar chart was totally hiding. You have to be so incredibly careful about boiling a whole population down to just its mean. So, to protect the integrity of your research, just run through this quick checklist. First, whenever you can, show the underlining data points. Second, always acknowledge uncertainty. Use error bars or shaded intervals, and explicitly say if it's standard deviation or standard error. Third, clearly separate your raw data from your statistical models visually. And fourth, like we literally just saw, do not rely solely on means when the actual distribution is where the real story lives. Ultimately, all of this boils down to one really provocative question. What story is your data actually telling? An effective figure proves you deeply understand your own work. An ineffective one suggests the exact opposite. By applying these principles, picking the right geometry, boosting that data ink ratio, using color strategically, and protecting visual integrity, you make sure your message is communicated powerfully and, most importantly, accurately. Think about the last chart you made. Did it reveal the truth of your data, or did it accidentally hide it? Thank you so much for joining me for this masterclass on the explainer. Keep learning, keep analyzing, and I'll catch you next time.